She took him to bed. So to Canada she fled. A 47-year-old mother, aren't they all, from Florida, aren't they all squared, sentenced to 30 years in prison after having sex with a 16-year-old, has now been granted asylum in a place called Canada. Not sure if it exists. In 2010, Denise Harvey fled the U.S. to Canada alongside her husband and son, how loving, to avoid the impending jail time for sleeping with her son's friend. Harvey argued that the 30-year sentence was, quote, cruel and unusual punishment, end quote, MCAT. After going back and forth on what to do, Canadian authorities decided to allow her to stay, noting that the sex would not have been a crime in Canada, where the legal age of consent is 16. Good to know. I believe we have the steamy love affair caught on tape. Wow! That really wasn't it. Joanne, should she have been granted asylum, and what message does that send to other teachers who have consensual sex with their 60-year-old male
Well, now
citizen?
I'm worried about all the Canadians. She's going to go down to 15 now. Because 16 is no longer a challenge.
That's true.
And I don't know. It said that she moved there with her family.
I know.
Her husband and son.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Her son... What son would not be mad at their mom for, like, that? Talk about embarrassing your kid.
family because
Yeah, because mom
your
could.
mom can't hook
Mom
up
picked
with your
up your
friends.
buddy.
Mom, again? Really? God.
Now we have to move again. We have to move from town to town. The kid's never going to make any friends, or he's going to make a lot of friends. He's going to make a lot of friends. Catherine, okay, this is where I understand why she should have gotten asylum. How do you? Am I missing something here? Did I read this too fast? A sentence was 30 years for this. I mean, it's. I guess it's. I mean, it's obviously. I don't know. I just find that a bit heavy.
I think Canada is the natural place to go. Canada is the party bro of all the countries, right? We got crackhead mayors. Windsor, the entire city is built on the money of drunken 19-year-olds from Detroit who go there to drink legally. I know I did it when I was 19. So, of course, 30 years, or you can go to Canada and get a high five.
Yeah.
You know?
I think there has to be an in-between there, Mary Catherine.
No, those are the only two choices.
Those are the only two.
Yeah, party bro country, right?
Yeah. So Canada's harboring one of our fugitives. Should we go in and should we trade for her?
Let's give him Bieber in return.
Exactly.
In our zeal to empty Gitmo, just send a couple on up there. But I do have a sort of a question. If it was a male perpetrator and a 16-year-old woman, does this set the precedent for asylum for them, and would they be a-okay with that as well?
What you're talking about is that it is this reversal that nobody likes to admit is true. And every time you do, you go, no, it's exactly the same. But it's not, because 16-year-old boys are different. They just are. I don't know a 16-year-old boy. Well, let me just end that sentence. I don't know a 16-year-old boy.
When I talk to a lot of 16-year-old boys about who they would have sex with, what they tell me is...
Yes, there you go. Thank you for that. Complete it so I don't have to. That it's... Oh,
I don't know. You're the one who's talking only 16-year-old boys.
No, I was saying hypothetically they don't really exist. Andy, should she be extradited back to the U.S.?
I'm kind of torn on this. I do think 30 years for having sex with a 16-year-old boy sounds excessive. The court documents show there was no evidence the sex wasn't consensual.
Yeah.
So that's which I think makes a difference. A majority of states in America have an age of consent of 16. I think it's 30 of them.
Yeah.
So 30 years in prison because you were in the wrong state seems a little excessive. On the other hand, I am strongly in favor of going to war with Canada. And this is a good excuse, I think.
I love Canada. But I will say this. Consensual sex with a 6-year-old boy isn't a high standard because 16-year-old boys, well, they're 16 and they're boys. Not that I know.
Look, I understand legally the age, I guess, has to be the same for boys and girls, but you can't argue that there's not a difference.
I know, but the thing is, if you argue that there's a difference, then you're violating the modern gender politics. There's supposed to be no difference between men or women.
When I was a 16-year-old boy.
Yes, thank you.
I learned how to control myself.
That's right. And you look great, by the way.
Yeah?
Yes,
I do.
exactly.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Didn't she meet him at a baseball game, too?
Really?
Maybe that's where softball came from.
We need more softball.
We need more
Should have been at the softball game where she belongs.
Yeah. I don't know. This is a disturbing story. The 30-year thing bugs the heck out of me.
Yeah.
It seems excessive.
There are killers.
People who murder people.
There are people who murder people. There's a guy in New York who got out after, it was 10 years after killing somebody. People get out after 3 years.
If he were younger, I could understand it.
Yes.
16 does, the fact that a bunch of states, that is an age of legal consent, there's a big difference between a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old.
Isn't the answer to all this Florida?
Yeah.
Florida.
But it's just because, we are so consumed by being politically correct, even in our laws, that we blind ourselves to common sense. This is a bad, unhealthy relationship, but it's not a 30-year crime.
I doubt she would have served the 30 years, though. They probably, if she didn't have a prior record, I'm sure they would have let her out before then.
Did she have a prior record?
Did she have a prior record?
I don't think so.
Again, operating on 45% of the story. That's Red Eye. We expect you to read up on these pieces, write to us, and tell us that we're lazy. All right. It's so true. Coming up, your favorite toys from the 80s and 90s. Mine was a doll I made out of a dead lizard in a ketchup bottle. I called it Lizard Dough-Bub, and I slept with it every night. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Tonight's sponsor is Thumbnail Mirrors. Can't get enough of seeing your own face? Do you think your profile picture is hot but hate how you look in regular mirrors? Well then, you need Thumbnail Mirrors, the latest in self-centered technology. These tiny reflections are too small to showcase your real flaws and are perfect for keeping your ego intact. Thumbnail Mirrors. Tiny Coke sold separately.